Brett, if you look at this playoff loss, what would you like to turn around? What would you like to change?
It, it's tough. I think we played the way we wanted to play. I think we created some good opportunities on goal, and when you have 2 goals called back, it just feels like no matter what we did, it wasn't going to be enough on the day. But the guys, you know, I just have a more macro look at it and what the group was able to achieve this year, and it coming down to 2 penalty kicks, it just feels wrong. And maybe there's another way to do these where it's where you just don't play 34 games and losing PKs. I don't know. Obviously, again, just with the way we set up and the way the guys fought back to get in the game, you know, even in tough moments, we stayed true to who we were as a team. And that brings a lot of solace to the moment. But obviously difficult to go out in this form. But that's football, I guess.
As far as the performance in the first half, it looked like it might get away from you there a couple times. Zach was big. I don't know, it's just guys grinding. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, no, you know, I think, you know, Zach has come up trumps in this playoff series and kept us in games, and really that's what the expectation is for all the players in all the positions. If you want to win games, you got to be clinical on the back end and make plays, and you got to be clinical on the attacking end and make plays, and that's what sees you through. Unfortunately, I think we left a little bit on the table just in front of goal, you know, and I think. But again, it's the hardest thing to do in the game. So, you know, I look at the effort, the game plan, and oftentimes, especially when it's such an emotional moment, it's not always going to go your way, and you got to make plays. And the guys in the back did a great job, and the guys did a great job up front to put themselves in positions. And I think the only thing lacked was the final product.
Anderson starting over Chicho might raise some eyebrows among fans, but late in the game when they have the lead and they're really packed in and the space is really tight, where Chicho's technical ability pays off, he and Crooks setting up a Nelly for that goal. That was.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was a great combination play, and then a Mecca again. You can put him in any position, and he's gonna come up smelling like roses. And again, that was the play that we needed. I wouldn't chalk it up as to a right outside back in a 3 being the guy that does it. But again, you know, and then as far as, you know, starting the game, one of the things that we want to do is keep their back line honest and stretch them. And I think the first half was a little bit of softening. And then depending on how the game went, we knew we always could bring Chicho on, and he would thrive in these tight spaces, and he did that. So again, from a game plan perspective, I wouldn't have changed a thing. What I'd like to change is the 2 goals that were called back and figure out how we can get those back.
5 of 10 on penalties over the 2 games. That's a pretty low conversion rate from the spot. When you reflect on that, is there anything to be done different other than it's just a moment and guys either deliver or don't?
Again, we've trained penalties ad nauseum, but there is no way to mimic walking up 50 yards, and we do that. We walk the long walk in training, but there's not 20,000 people sitting there, and there's not the pressure of, you know, because it's training, and if you miss it, it's not a big deal, and there's no way to mimic it. And so it's really about the moment, and you know, I've been in these moments. They're not easy, and they were better at penalty kicks than we were. And that's what decided our fate this year.
That's 3 years in a row. It's been penalties. It's actually 4. You won the first round, but the first round, every year you've been coached, it's come down to penalties. I want to ask you if there's anything you can do about it, but I don't know what the heck you can do about it. That's just the format in life, I guess.
Yeah, you know, it is. And you know, there's nothing. There's nothing you can do. You don't recruit players to take penalty kicks. You know, it's a 12-yard shot unopposed, and what makes them difficult is the moment.
When it comes down to those penalties, can that, I mean, you talk about the 12-yard walk up, can that walk beforehand be sometimes harder than actually getting down and taking the kick? Because that's something that does get trained over and over again.
Yeah, no, it's hard, and like I said, I've been in those moments, and for me, it was all about visualization. So one of the things that we worked on in training was to prepare, even if you don't have the crowd, is to get into a breathing rhythm. Take a deep breath before so get into a routine to where you can mimic as much as being comfortable as you can. But there's a lot of noise that goes on in your head, and I think that's the kicker. And it's crazy. It's just strange to me that you play 34 games and just PKs. I don't know. It just feels like I don't know.
I did want to follow up something on Emeka, because obviously he gets the goal tonight, but it feels like he has been one of those players during this back half of the season where he's been in the right place at the right time so often. Mm-hmm. And that has been a little bit lacking with a lot of this team. I mean, thinking like the back half of the season in particular. Is there something he does in there that can maybe, I don't know, sort of tack on to the other players, sort of be contagious? I don't know the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, no.
Transfer to the other guy?
Well, I think in particular, Emeka came in as like an attacking midfielder. And over the course of his time here, we've played him at right back, we've played him in the middle, and one of his strengths is carrying the ball and being aggressive with his dribble and breaking lines with the dribble. And, and I think it is a contagion. Again, third man running in football is the hardest thing to defend. And he just, again, Emeka is a very special player in that he can play in multiple positions. He's great in the final third. But I just feel like he's brave in his character as a strong person, as a believer in himself. Helps manifest these moments for him. I think if you're timid, if you're scared, you'd never go into the, but that, gets the ball and drives, dishes, gets it back, finishes. I mean, and I think that's what I'm referencing when I'm saying making plays. It's not about, we can talk about getting into these spots to be dangerous, but then what happens when you get in those spots? You got to make plays, and tonight Emeka made a great play for us.
So it seemed like in the first half, the guys almost seemed nervy. There were a lot of guys falling down. There were a lot of shanked passes. Mm-hmm. And in the second half, they came out like steely-eyed missile men. Mm-hmm. So is that how it seemed to you? And if it was, what did you say to them? What changed?
Yeah, no, again, it's really interesting from a coaching perspective is when you train something, it's almost like they force themselves to see it even if it's not there. So one of the things that we identified with Minnesota in the first couple games, or the last couple games that we played against them was we had a lot of guys looking for the ball between lines, but we had no one stretching, right? And they were susceptible when we played in between the lines and it went back out to the right outside back, that their center back would go with our 10. Well, then we wanted our 9 to run it. And so I think, again, training it this week, it's almost they forced that moment over and over again. And then it was obviously a loss of possession. So at halftime, it was basically, we got to play the way we normally do, which is looking to break lines. Now we've softened them up. Like their back lines now thinking that we're going to go long. Now you play in between the lines. And I think that's the evolution of a team is to understand what the game is giving you, not so much forcing what we worked on this week and putting that into context. And I think in the second half we there was a good balance of running in behind and playing those balls, but more importantly finding those gaps in between the lines and our pivots running through. And and I thought then we switched it up and we went to one pivot and played with 3 10s, and I think that asked them a lot of questions. And again, I think we created a couple of good opportunities again in the second half, minus the set piece goals, and I think just unlucky to not finish those.
It almost looked like we were playing a diamond. when you made those changes in the 60th minute. Can
Yeah.
you walk us through that substitution window?
Yeah, so again, bringing, I think when you're going to a 3-1, I think it's important to have a pivot in there that has a range of passing, because now you can, Nelson's a great passer of the ball. He can break lines, but he can also hit the long balls. And then Crooksey was playing as a 10 in possession, but defending. And so I think the nuance of it was, how do we keep our defending shape, not compromising that, and playing in a 3-1-3 with 2 wing backs and a striker. And I think it posed a lot of questions. So again, I think the evolution of this group is having that flexibility to go to that, to impose yourselves on games, or in this case, to come back from a 1-0 deficit.
Thanks, Coach.
Caleb, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about 2 guys, starting with Chicho. He doesn't score in the run of play, but makes both his penalties over these last 2 games. What does that just kind of say about his mentality and kind of killer instinct to just show up when it matters most?
Yeah, no, I think, again, Chicho, in front of goal, he's a killer. I think what's eluded him in the past, few weeks, has been getting in those spots to be able to do that. But as far as, taking PKs, he's number one on number one to step up. And for me, I haven't seen him miss a PK since he's been here. So the confidence that that I have with Chicho in front of goal is second to none.
And then lastly, wanted to ask you about Matt Crooks. I think he had probably one of, if not his best game in RSL uniform tonight. How can a performance like this maybe spur a guy like him forward heading into next season?
Yeah, no, I think Crooksy had a great performance. He was a willing runner in the attack, getting behind their back line in the first half. Second half, really doing a lot of conducting from the middle of the field, and obviously combining on Emeka's goal. So again, a really, really good performance. He was everywhere. He was everywhere on both sides of the ball, and I think it speaks volumes of the level that he's played at, and and again, I think just moving forward, just the different ways we can utilize Crooksy, because he's so rangy without the ball, and he's clever with the ball, and then not to mention the set pieces and what he brings on in that department. But I thought he had a fantastic game.
Awesome. Thanks, Pablo.
Yep.
DJ.
Pablo, as you inevitably look to build a roster next season, does Jayden Brown enter in that conversation as a 3rd, 4th, or 5th center back, given what you've seen from him in the last 3 games playing out position?
That's a great question. I said the same thing to the coaches. I've been very, I don't want to say surprised, but the way he's conducted himself as a center back, it wasn't in the cards when we brought him over. Whether he's on the left side or the right side, he's a competitor, and I think when you see him attack head balls, he attacks it like no one else. He gets a body first and then he goes for the head. He's really, his timing on tackles is really good, and he's just reliable. When he's back there, you don't feel like anything the other team can throw at us is going to confuse him, is going to make him doubt. And this is a young man that came to us and was struggled physically to play at the tempo that we ask. And so credit to Javane for really getting that part right, but then also coming up and playing some fantastic performances out of position that looked like, to your point, it was a position that he's played for a long time. And so really happy for him as well. And just saying that, I'm thinking about all the guys and their performances in the last couple games, and I'm going, man, it just feels weird to be out, given that there were some really top performances from a lot of players. But it's football.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thank you.